Well, it's been a long, hard day in the garden today, but I got a lot done. I got 7 bags of debris out of the garden that was, well spent, or the blooms were gone, and that's not counting the branches I took off this tree. But now you can look out and actually see the garden. Before, all you saw was were the leaves on this tree right here. But now you can see right on past behind them and see a fall garden out there. And the fall garden looks a lot neater because I've taken out a bunch of the stuff that got heavy with rain and fell over and just wasn't looking good at all. And then through the back gate and into the fall garden back here. There is, again, so much to do. I'm seeing this path and I'm thinking someday I want to perfect that and get me a garden path so it won't be all muddy through there. But I do have something in mind for the garden path. I don't want just any path. I actually want it to be like a memory lane path. So I'm hoping to be able to do that at some point. I'm not in a terrible hurry to do it though, because I don't have it perfected yet where I just like I want it. I want it to be able to stay. And the one that I previously tried, and these are pretty white cosmos here. The one I previously tried, my pictures faded in the sun, so I want to find a way to get that all where I can enjoy it and have it where it won't just fade out on me. Look at these beautiful purple splash peppers. I'll want each one of those for seed for next year too. And I planted a bunch of them. I planted 3 packages, and I'm not sure, there may have only been 10 seeds in each package, but this is the only one I got to come up, and I don't really know why, but this is an absolute favorite plant for me. I love it in pots. It's just that color and the way it kind of trails down. It's just such a perfect plant. There's some more of that redhead coleus, which is just awesome in the garden. It just definitely is a standout. This one is kind of the more of a wine red, whereas the caladium there is a bright red. That's another thing I need to do is dig up my caladiums. I need to do that pretty soon, because last year I waited until they actually were the tops of them, the foliage had disappeared on a lot of them, and I wasn't real sure where the bulb itself was, so I think I actually lost a few bulbs last year. So I don't want to wait too awfully long, but I don't want to take them up too soon either. I want to enjoy them as long as I can. This is a pretty mum right here. This is a pretty black-eyed Susan in white. The black-eyed Susan vine. I see that my red canna that a guy from our church gave me these. Aren't they pretty? And this, one of my favorites in the garden. She's always right there front and center to welcome you into the garden. And I love the Dusty Miller with the beautiful trailing silver falls Chandra. And then, as I like to say, anything you put in there with them works great. And now I didn't have a lot of luck with this little arrangement this year, but I do love this blue Victorian salvia, annual salvia, but it will come back from seed sometime. And if not, you can pretty readily find it when you're looking through the nurseries. And then this is one of my favorite coleus also, and it's something that I put in recently, or not very long ago, and it's just now kind of picking up and just coming into its own. You can see there's another little coleus right down there. That these are new because other things had succumbed to the elements and the heat, but even though it hasn't done just really wonderful, it's beginning to look good now, and hopefully I still keep hoping that we'll have some beautiful weather to just really enjoy the garden in. And then over here the mums that I put in these pots are blooming, and they're doing really good too. I did have, like in the center, I had the celosia, but neither of these have done that well this year. The celosias, this one is up tall, but as you can see, it's kind of, the bloom has spent and it's just not really looking so good in there, but the mum itself looks gorgeous. This little one has a celosia down there, but it's way down in the center there. But if we do have a long enough time, it may come on up there and just really look good too. And hopefully the bright yellow mums will stay. The new foliage on the rose is looking really pretty. I always enjoy this, the brighter color on the rose, the kind of reddish color there. And then right behind it is the verbena, which is not as full bloom as I like it to be, but it's still very pretty. I love this candy cane verbena. This little plant is one of the datura, in the datura family, the angel's trumpet family, and this is the first time I've had one to bloom for me. This plant is not, this is not its first bloom, but you can tell this one has bloomed and is spent pretty much now, and this one's filling out pretty good. Sometimes they say these can be invasive, and they very well could be, because I know the angel's trumpet can certainly be, but I'm excited to see this little plant. When I got it, when I purchased it and it was so big and full and pretty, I thought, oh, we'll get to see it this year. And then it just kind of fizzled out and didn't do that much, and in the summer's heat it just wilted over. But look how tall it's grown. You could hardly tell it was that tall some of the time because it was so wilty looking and looked terrible, but right now it's looking good. It just needed a little cooler weather, which is what I needed too. I used to totally be a spring person, and spring may still be my favorite season. I just can't help it. That's the way it is. It was also my daddy's favorite. This little mum here has definitely spent, but you can see one beside it beginning to bloom, and this one up here is already partially open and looking good. I see there's a small white and pink one right here, and then I see another one. These are, I don't have them staked up like they need to be, but I'll hold this one up so you can see it because it's just so pretty. And then over here is another beautiful color. This is my Russian sage, and fall is also a wonderful time for just assessing what did well, what you want to do next year. And I know I've already said that, but I just wanted to say it again because it's just some of the things that I personally need to be thinking on before the garden goes away for the season. I would like to make some decisions on what to do and to do differently, and what to do again the same way if I can. This little pot is looking good today. I love this pretty little peach verbena, which didn't do all that well until now, but now that the weather is cooler, it's loving it. And I know it's not going to love it if it gets down to 40, but right now it certainly is. There's another one of the pretty garden mums, this one in yellow. And this is a pretty burgundy flower arrangement or pot. And I noticed that it was a little too dark and not really showing up just how pretty it was. So I put a couple of green ones in there for them to play the color off of. And they need to grow up just a little bit more, but it's definitely doing what I hoped it would. And it's still hard to beat a zinnia for beauty, for color. You can put them, there's one of every height for any spot you need it for. And just because the bees and the butterflies and the hummingbirds love it. This little round of flowers at the top here for them. If I can get it in focus for you. I think when I get far enough away, it's not really, but that little halo at the top is what all the bees and butterflies go for. This is the Swiss chard, those pretty red stems. There's a clematis up this trellis, and clematis in Oklahoma heat, this is how it looks and how I feel and how some of the other plants look and feel too. But it's always worth saving and holding on to, because this is what you get. One little lone one, but it's gorgeous. And then in the springtime, this whole thing is full of beautiful color. There's some more mums for you. And then I noticed that I also have some over here on this other side, right here, that same color. They seem to be the ones that are really in bloom right now. As we go along here a little bit farther down, this is the Henry Eilers Rudbeckia. And this is my one lone little calabachoa that made it through everything. It just did not cease to be beautiful the whole season. I'll definitely put another one here next year, and I hope this wouldn't just a fluke. I hope I can learn to have them. If I can, I'm going to put it in each one of these 3 in the bottom tier, because it just did so well in this one. And I hope to have one of different colors in all 3 of these next year. And I think I've decided that along with the petunias and the double petunias, the calabachoas, the things I love that are so beautiful in spring and summer, but they have a tendency to fade away, I want to try to remember to use more of the vinca or the periwinkle. Look at this, it's still pretty, and I want to use more of it. And I also want to use more of the pentas and the geraniums, the things that I found that weather the heat and then still come out and look great. Those are the things I want to try to use. I just noticed that some of this pretty little shamrock plant is looking good. I took a bunch of things out of here. It was kind of overgrown, and it's allowing me to see them. Here's some of the burgundy shamrock plant, purple oxalis. Very pretty plant. This is another job I'll need to do, but the big pretty elephant ears, they'll have to be dug up. And this one is a big one. You can tell how big the stem is. But I will want to dig that up and bring it inside and put it back out next spring and see if it'll do this again for me. There's another little bit of that chocolate plant I was telling you about with the little white tufts on it. And then over here, if I can get it focused in for you, is the toad lily, which when I ordered my first toad lily, I had only seen the regular lilies and day lilies, and I assumed these were that big. But actually they're not very big at all, but they're very pretty. And this is a spot where I worked probably 3 hours yesterday, getting down here on this ground and trying to get some of these. And you see these lanterns, these little these are lanterns from the rain tree. This is my rain tree. Has beautiful fall color, which I do love, but it also has these brown lanterns. They fall off and they cause a bug called a red shoulder bug to come. And so we're almost sure that we are going to go ahead and take that tree down, which will be another job, not only to take it down, which my husband will probably take care of the biggest part, if not all of that for me, but I will also want to take down all my little things that I have hanging on it, because I'll definitely want to save these. And then it even has my little chandelier over here, this one, my little bistro, and my little chandelier is hanging on this rain tree, which is right over my bistro table, and I love this, but it's going to have to go because this rain tree it's just becoming more trouble than it's worth, even though it's so pretty. There's one of those pentas I was telling you about that I want to use more of because they're so pretty still, even when everything else is fading through the summer's heat. They're very, very pretty. Another one that's very pretty after all the summer's heat is gone, of course, the coleus, but this little plant right here is it's a cousin to the coleus, and it's called a plectranthus plant. It comes not only in this pretty little deep dark green with the pretty purple blooms that come in the late summer, early fall, and but it also is, this is a plectranthus also, and it is a fuzzy little leaf that's very pretty, and sometimes they are more of a two-tone or variegated color. And there's more of that pretty purple plectranthus plant. And this is another plant I want to use more of, which I've already said, but this pretty purple here is another one of the periwinkles. When all the others are fading and gone, and this one even had a pretty ivy leaf geranium in it, which was also very pretty right up until just recently that it kind of turned brown and scraggly, but the periwinkles even lasted longer, and they did pretty well too. I would definitely use that again, the geraniums and the ivy leaf geraniums. And this little pot right here, when the sun is shining on it, this is an alternanthera plant, and it really shines. The color shines so bright, not quite like a ruby, not quite as much as the oh gosh, now I'm going to forget the name of it again, but there's another plectranthus that I just love because it looks burgundy like this until the sun shines on it, and then it literally looks like a ruby. But this one is, It's called Purple Night. That's what that one is called. Now this one is, I think it's called Scarlet something, but it doesn't get as bright red, but it does have highlights of bright red in it. It's very pretty. And here's another little ornamental or garden ornament that I'll want to take down from this rain tree and use somewhere else because she's so pretty, and I love her here. She just looking out over the garden like any gardener would love to do if the weather was nice and they had time to do that. So those are some examples of what needs to be done in the garden at this time in this season. Not only do I need to do some planning and just sitting out here and enjoying and dreaming of what needs to go on next year, because this is the perfect time for that. If you don't do it now while something's still there, you don't really know where it needs to be, and where an empty spot is that you need to fill next year, or where a certain color is that you want there next year, and you want to make yourself a note or some pictures to show you what you need to do, because it won't look like this when you start out again in the spring. It'll all be to start over again. So the dahlias will need to be dug soon, hopefully not before sometime in October, but it won't be long. It may have to be sooner than that. I hope not. A lot of things will have to be brought in. Some of the annuals that I want to try to save. A lot of the little clippings of things that I'll want to try to save in a glass of water in the window, even though I have to change those out on a weekly basis, and it gets to be a job in itself to do that, and then you end up losing so many to stem rot anyway. But it's always worth it. It's always worth it to see those beautiful plants. I kept one, like, let me see if I can go over here and get one of these, like this one right here. I kept one like this for probably 4 years before I ended up, and this year I had to buy another one because the ones that I took inside, they just didn't make it in this particular one. But I brought some of them out. I thought maybe they would anyway, but they didn't. But they've lived for a long amount of time, and I always like to try to save some. I like to put this little offspring of the plants that I had in the garden the year before. This is one of my favorites too, this beautiful Alabama sunset coleus. This is an example of another bulb. This is called a pineapple lily, and a couple of different caladiums there. These need to be dug up, and probably really soon, so that the foliage doesn't die back, and I forget to get them back in, because I definitely want to bring these in, put them in a paper sack, and put them away in a dark closet or some spot where I can keep them for next year to bloom again. My cattails, I'm guessing they're not going to make cattails this year. That's okay, because I had so many of them last year that I ended up needing to thin them out. So when I did, I guess they just didn't go ahead and make this year, but they will again, I'm pretty sure. There's some more of those pretty orangey copper mums. And this coleus is called chocolate cherry coleus. There's another example of the periwinkle, just looking good all through the season. And there's a little verbena that's still looking good, along with, of course, the beautiful Alabama sunset coleus. I also like, this is another thing I'll want to use in here in the pot, simply because they stand the summer heat and they're just a pretty succulent acetum. But then, of course, in the fall they do have the beautiful color also. The beautiful, this one is white, and then the one down a little bit farther is, this one is a coleus in this pot, and then this one is the autumn joy sedum. And along this row, of course, we have the double cosmos and the zinnies. I love to sit out here in this little swing right here. It's my favorite spot to sit and look at the garden. And then all along this row, I can see the hummingbirds and the butterflies and try to get pictures of them. It's just, they love the zinnies. They love all this. And this one right here is the tall garden phlox, which is just about all out of bloom right now, but when in its season in July, the first or middle part of July, it just looks wonderful. These right here are the profusion zinnies, which are another small zinnia that I love to use in containers. They're not big and full, but they do have a lot of, just a profusion of zinnia on them, and they're very pretty. And there's some more of that pretty Alabama sunset coleus. So it's beginning to get dusky dark. So I'm going to leave the garden to the little angels and the garden fairies, and hope for a beautiful day tomorrow. Even though I know it's supposed to get cool tonight, I don't think it's supposed to stay cool for very long, and hopefully we'll be out enjoying this again. Hi, it's Nancy. I wanted to show you what I did today. I gave the garden a haircut. So we did the beauty shop, and right now I'm not sure that it's satisfied with its new look, but I think it will be. So I'll have to show you the before pictures before you can really appreciate the after pictures, but this one was all covered up, and now if you can tell, there's a rooster in there. Can you get that word that you can tell that rooster's in there? And all the little clippings that I took off of those things are right here, except for the ones that I put in other pots. And I will probably put some of these in pots too. I just used the root developer and put them in, and they will have a chance now that these are shade plants, but now that the larger plants are taller and broader, I can hide these underneath them and let their shade be on these. Now I'm not sure, like here's some right here. I'm not sure, these are a little bit in the sun. So with our cooler weather, these may or may not root in and be pretty. But it's worth a try, because I just determined that I was ready to go ahead and trim this back over here. If you can see, like this little pot here, I took caladiums and pineapple lilies out of and put, well, there actually is a begonia there. I'll probably try to save that too. I'm not very good at saving begonias, but I will try that one. All of these had clippings clipped off of them because they were, I'll put the before picture here when I put it on as a post, but you can definitely see a difference. This was just covered. You couldn't see this little girl or this little bear. You could barely see that little girl's head. So now it's had a haircut. This one you couldn't see at all because the impatiens and this Plectranthus was up so tall it was covering everything. This little begonia back here was covered up, and isn't that darling, with that dark green, almost brownish black, and then the light green in with it. And it has a beautiful white bloom when it blooms. I didn't realize how much of this wandering Jew I had going, but I got quite a bit of it off. Then I'll put little starts of it in other places too. If we have a long fall, I'll get to enjoy that, and if you look at the garden post, you'll get to enjoy it with me. So there's just even though I spent practically all day, except for the time that I took pictures and just stayed out here praising the Lord in song, a cappella, because I can't even follow music, but I think the Lord loves to hear a joyful noise, and He knows that I love Him, and it's all for His glory and honor. And watch your step there. Gonna trip over those. If you'll look, pan down to that and let them see, that's just some of the pieces that I cut off. So I'll have these, all of these that I cut off, that I'll put in other places. And this is another little girl, this one right here, that's been totally covered up most of the summer. You could see her in the spring pictures, but can you get over there and get her a little bit better where you can see her face and everything? But I had to trim a lot of that off, and the before pictures will show you it. You couldn't even see her. And the billowing impatiens is beautiful. It was a little bit hard to cut them back, but just knowing that they'll have to go soon anyway. You can tell these are over here. This is how it looked right here. This these orange and red and some of the pink impatiens, that's how it looked over here, just billowing down. But I wanted to see the garden art again, and I wanted to get started because some of the like these are my pineapple lilies. They make a real pretty bulb. You can look back at the pictures, the posts, and see those in bloom. And I've just got to get started. I dug these up out of those pots, and I kind of had to trim everything back so I could get to them. And these, of course, are the caladiums over here. I left the tops on those right now just so I can mark what colors they are. Sometimes I like to just mix and be surprised, and then other times I want a certain color in with certain other plants. This one is my beautiful black and green caladium, and I'm letting those dry out a little bit. Not that today is a good day for drying out because it's still damp. We've had, what, 3 days now of damp, rainy weather, which I am loving. The garden is loving. We're just about sick of all that heat and just stressed out from it, so we're just enjoying it. And tomorrow I'll probably try this end down here and see what I can get done with it. I will also need to go back over here some, because all this will need to be trimmed up a little bit so that I can get these out. And then where I take things out, I'll probably put some of the coleus clippings back, impatiens clippings back in that I clip off. And I'll also probably put some coleus in with them. Coleus and impatiens are always a wonderful, wonderful match. And this is, oh gosh, now I can't think of the name of this. It's a spike, a burgundy spike, and it is a house plant. My sisters, two of my sisters visited me this last Saturday, and one of them is like me. Well, she can actually do houseplants and outside plants, but my other sister, she's thinking it's pretty. She's looking around getting everything that she enjoyed, but just commenting on everything that she enjoyed. But when she got around here, she turned into my other sister and she goes, "Oh, is that a house plant? I need one of those." And of course there actually is two in here, which I do not need two because I can't do house plants. I should give them both to her so they'd both live, but no, I have to try. I just have to try. Sometimes I bring out more dead sticks than I bring out plants, but I hope to bring this out again. This is a little plant. It's also a house plant that my friend from church gave me, and it really has done well this year. I'd like to never got it started, but once it got going, it has done well, and I hope to be able to keep that and bring it back out next year also. And before I quit, before I quit the post, I've got some more things out here I need to do before I stop. But I wanted to take you down to this side. Although here's another bunch of things I'll need to do. I hate to take this little black caladium in. I hated to take those others in. I like to leave them right up until the last minute and enjoy them outside. But I know that I can't get them all in and do that, and I don't want to risk losing them, not even to try to keep them through. This is, of course, that bougainvillea that I just love, and this is the best I've ever done with one of them. But this is what I wanted to show you. I wanted to be sure you didn't miss this. If you'll get a good close-up of that, isn't that just gorgeous? That's one of the hibiscus that I got from Logie's, and I'm not thinking of the name of it right now, but if you look in there, there's so many beautiful hibiscus plants in the Logie's catalog. I just love every one of them. If I could save them inside easily and had a place to save them easily, I would definitely have one of every color of that. It's just one of my favorites. This, of course, is, if you look at the post, I've already talked about this, but it is the annual butterfly plant or butterfly weed that the butterflies have actually, it's a post for the monarch butterfly, and they've actually kept it trimmed back. This is the most bloom it's had on it all at once, and I'm hoping that these will go to seed and that I will get to save those and have them back out in the garden next year. I would like to have many of these and many butterflies in the garden.